CEO and founder of Ask Techie, and I'm also here with Youngry News at the Traction Conference in Vancouver. And I found Indy Guha of Bain Capital. We're super excited to talk to you, so thanks for chatting with us.
Absolutely, happy to.
So how are you enjoying the conference so far?
It's been great. Lloyd and team always do a great job pulling together a great ecosystem of folks. And they had a sort of CXO summit yesterday, which was fantastic. Got to meet a lot of talented folks, and I'm loving the energy here on the floor.
Was there any interesting, say, tech startups at the summit yesterday that stood out that with their technologies or their ideas?
Look, this is a conference all around how do I scale my business and how do I do that without having to spend a lot of money. And I'm a big fan of the Grobotz guys. Greg, the CEO, I think spoke earlier today. And, they basically provide a sort of single console for your sales team to find interesting customer prospects and manage the cadence with which they reach out to those prospects. And it's really useful tooling as you're trying to manage a sales team.
Yeah, for sure. I actually interviewed those guys too. I'm like,
oh, cool.
I could use your tools and service for sure at some point.
That's great.
So good plug for them.
It's a great team. So.
And you're regular to Vancouver, you were saying.
Yeah.
So what do you think makes the Vancouver tech startup ecosystem so good, or
Absolutely.
What do you like about it?
Yeah. So kind of our first investment here in Vancouver is Bench, which does SMB bookkeeping and huge fans of what Ian Crosby and the team over there have accomplished in this ecosystem. I think if you take a step back, there's a couple of things that make Vancouver pretty special. One is sort of a Canada-wide amazing access to engineering talent that is generally a little bit cheaper than the Bay Area, which matters from a founder's perspective as you're trying to scale a company and you got to get to hundreds of employees. Employees around here are a little more loyal. There's less churn, which again makes it easier for you to scale up your team. So I think that's a big part of it. And then with Vancouver in particular, because of the heritage of gaming studios, I think it's a really interesting talent pool for designers and user experience people, and just folks who will take a fresh perspective on the problem they're trying to solve. So even as an enterprise investor, in the era of people downloading apps onto their mobile phones or expecting more from the tools they use at work. Slack is obviously a great example of this. It's a gaming company turned enterprise collaboration. This talent pool is really interesting for that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I totally get that because, huge video game industry. I worked actually at EA Sports for a number of years, so I totally get it. What would you say is actually the big trends for 2017, or especially what you guys at Bain Capital are interested in?
So, before artificial intelligence or AI was a buzzword, we started investing in what were then called big data applications, back in 2009. This idea that there's lots of unused data in the enterprise, and if you can stitch it together to drive an insights layer, you can help people take the next best action for the thing they're trying to solve. And that's what led us to invest in companies like Bench, which stitches together all of your bank accounts and all of your credit cards to do your books. To companies like Gainsight, which stitches together all your customer data to tell you who might churn and who you should go talk to. And if you sort of take a step back, marketing and sales were the first categories that benefited from machine learning, AI, etc. There's lots of opportunities throughout the enterprise to just take that approach, that fingerprint, and kind of work your way across different functions. So, I don't know, the next time you file an expense report, ask yourself how ridiculous it is that you have to specify that Air Canada is an airline. That should be an auto-populated thing. It shouldn't be something you have to enter.
Exactly.
And then you start thinking about the hours you spend on an expense report and how much of that could be automated. And the fact that the last big expense report company got acquired for $8 billion, and maybe somebody should go solve that problem, right? So that's where I spend a lot of my time.
Absolutely. So how did a Canadian company like Bench get connected with you guys? What was the story behind that?
They built a great business. That always helps. But candidly, venture firms are always looking for great founders and great companies. And we make it a point to come visit markets like Vancouver, like Toronto, like Waterloo, where that they're talented people. And so if you're in one of those hubs, you're hiring good talent, you're making noise, you're winning customers, chances are you're going to get one of us reaching out to you, whether you want us to or not. So it's not hard to get found. It's obviously a lot harder to build a company that's working.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
no, that makes sense. So, our audience here is a lot of early stage entrepreneurs.
Sure.
What are some qualities or traits that you look for in a founder and a successful startup, or potentially successful startup, I should say?
Yeah, so I do mostly B2B investments, enterprise software, etc. So this would be a little biased to that, but the two big questions I'm always trying to answer are, out of the 8 companies that are going to get funded to solve an idea, because let's face it, if it's a good idea, a lot of people are going to jump on the bandwagon. What makes you as a founder uniquely qualified to go solve it?
Right.
And some of that comes down to your passion and experience. And some of it comes down to the second thing I look for, which is just bloody-minded persistence.
Yeah.
Inevitably, things go wrong, things break, and you have to endure and move past it and do better.
Yeah.
You got to pick yourself up after sort of that hard day.
Right.
We spend a lot of time getting to know founders in the early stages to try and form our view of whether they have that grit.
Yeah, for sure. I think that seems to be a resounding theme from all the people I've been talking to. Is resilience, grit, persistence, determination, all that good stuff.
Yes. Hard to do it otherwise.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, how did you get into this space, the investing space? If you can share a little bit about that story.
Yeah. I think, venture capital is one of those weird industries where you have really successful venture capitalists who are former journalists and really successful venture capitalists who are former CEOs. And, so the short answer would be there is no set path. I don't know how helpful my story is, but I basically started my career helping tech companies, bigger tech companies, think about product launches and what companies to go acquire. So I was a consultant working on those types of projects. From that, I joined Bain Capital Ventures as a junior associate. Left a couple of times to work for different startups that we had backed, typically in product roles. And for whatever reason, they thought I might actually be good at leading and backing great companies, and so they've sort of found reasons to bring me back into the fold. So I became a partner at the firm about 2.5 years ago. But I would say it doesn't matter what path you're on. It does help to be sort of really intellectually curious about products, technology trends, and how things work. That doesn't mean you need to have an engineering degree, but let's put it this way. The first time ads showed up in Gmail, if you weren't asking yourself, I wonder how that happens and where they make money and how those ads get targeted, you're not a product person. And if you're not thinking that way about the world, you're probably not going to enjoy being an investor in the early stage.
Right, for sure. So that curiosity mindset and also how to make things better, probably, and all that good stuff.
Totally.
So, you said you were involved with some tech startups as well, and was there, in those early days, any mistakes that were made? What were they, and how did you overcome them, or what did you learn?
All sorts of mistakes. Hard to know where to start. But I would say it takes about 10 years to go from a Series A company to something that could be a public company. 10 years ago, there was no iPhone. 10 years ago, Facebook was a tiny company. There was no Uber. So the point of that is the world can change dramatically over that type of horizon. Markets change, competitors change, technology stacks change. The only constant you can bet on is people. And so the biggest mistakes in the early days of a company, as a founder or an investor, are the types of people you pull into the bus. And are they going to scale? Are they going to last? Are they going to help you make the right decision when you're always operating in ambiguity? So
Fantastic. No,
Cool.
that's great advice. One last thing, we were chatting a little bit earlier about the diversity issues and especially, in
Sure.
venture capital for female founders to get some of that. What are your thoughts around that? And is there anything perhaps even you guys are doing consciously to make a difference there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the simplest answer, which I think is the best one, is some of our best investments have been behind female founders.
Yeah.
Be it Rent the Runway in New York or Six Sense in San Francisco. And so we want to do more, right? And candidly, I think I'd love to see tech as an ecosystem come together and make sure that if we make people aware of any bias issues across the ecosystem, across incubators, across seed funds, across venture capital firms, we can all work together to sort of consciously fight that and avoid it making bad decisions or decisions that unfairly penalize female founders. So, but I think it starts with shining a light on wins that are led by female founders, and I think having seen that in our portfolio, we're excited to do more.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for interviewing with us. It was amazing.
Absolutely.
And we will definitely keep in
Thanks for
touch.
your time. Yeah.